One of the biggest topics that come up for people who are thinking about filing for disability benefits or those who have already applied or are receiving disability benefits is work and whether you're able to work and how much you're able to earn while still maintaining your eligibility for disability benefits. The good news is you are able to work to some extent or even test your ability to work while you are filing for disability benefits. Now, the rules are very different and the whole criteria and the amount that you're able to earn changes once you are approved or are receiving disability benefits. For 2025, if you are working part-time and earning up to $1,620 gross monthly income, so this is your pre-tax earnings, you are able to still file and be eligible for disability benefits. Social Security has special rules in place for people who are blind. You are able to earn up to $2,700 gross monthly income for 2025 and still be eligible potentially to file for disability benefits. When you file for disability benefits, the very first thing that Social Security is looking at is work. If you are currently working full-time or your part-time earnings exceed the Substantial Gainful Activity threshold, or SGA, then you may not be eligible for disability benefits. So for example, if you are working part-time and you're earning $1,800 in gross monthly income, but let's say your net or your take-home income is around $1,500, some people might think that you are still eligible to file and receive disability benefits because they're bringing home less than SGA for 2025 in the net. However, in that example, the person would not be eligible to file for disability benefits or be eligible for that because the gross monthly income, $1,800, is over the 2025 SGA limit, and gross monthly income is what Social Security is looking at. Now, there are also special rules that apply or exceptions to SGA, and one of them is called unsuccessful work attempt. So again, for 2025, that's $1,620 gross monthly income or $2,700 gross monthly income for blind individuals. So if you are going through the disability process and your earnings exceed the SGA limit, you are able to do this work so long as it does not last more than 6 months. As long as your condition or the limitations that you have from your conditions cause you to stop working or bring your earnings below the SGA limit in that 6-month or less window, then you can still file for and be eligible for disability benefits. So while you are going through the disability process, you are able to work and in some cases even earn more than SGA, so long as your work stopped or the amount that you were earning fell below the SGA limit in less than 6 months. The key here is to show that your work stopped or was reduced below that SGA limit because of the limitations you have from your condition or from your disabilities, or you had special accommodations that were provided to you on the job to be able to do that job, which are now removed, making it impossible for you to continue working at SGA level or higher. Some examples of this might include being able to come into work late, leave early, take excessive breaks during the workday, or even having someone on the workstation or on the worksite being able to help you to perform that work. So if we can prove that you engaged in an unsuccessful work attempt, so your work ended in less than 6 months, even if it was over the SGA limit, then you could be entitled to disability benefits for the entire period of time that you're alleging disability, even if you worked full-time or exceeded the SGA limit for that period of time that was no more than 6 months. As long as it doesn't continue for more than 6 months, and we can show that one of the exceptions apply, whether it is that your conditions kept you from continuing to work or you had special accommodations that were removed. There's another special rule that could apply for people who are filing for disability or awaiting an approval for disability benefits that not a lot of people know about. If you are unable to work for a period of 1 year or longer, you still may be eligible for disability benefits even if you return to work after that time frame. If you were off work or unable to work at SGA levels for a period of 1 year or longer due to your conditions and the limitations that they cause you, even if you go back to work full-time or above SGA levels after that 1 year period, you could still be eligible for what's called a closed period. A closed period of benefits may be awarded for back pay purposes or for retroactive payments if you were unable to work for 1 year or longer or engage in SGA level work. So for people who are unable to work at all, or they're working part-time but below that SGA limit for 1 year or longer, you might be entitled to back pay benefits or retroactive payment for that period of time that your conditions precluded you from working or working more than that. Many people don't realize that they could be eligible for a closed period or for an unsuccessful work attempt, or that they could even work part-time and that there's a threshold on their earnings while still being eligible to receive disability benefits. So it's important that you are well informed and that you understand your rights and your options, because a lot of people leave benefits on the table, not realizing what they could be entitled to. Once you are approved and receiving disability benefits, you might be wondering how much you are able to work and earn and still maintain your eligibility for those benefits. When you're receiving disability benefits, an entirely new set of rules will apply with regards to your earnings and how long you're able to work at the limit in order to maintain your eligibility. If you are self-employed, so freelance work, contract worker, or you own your own business, Social Security is still going to look at whether you're working full-time or if your earnings meet or exceed that SGA limit. But for self-employed individuals, Social Security is looking at your net income, so your gross income, and they subtract any business expenses that you may have. However, Social Security will also apply a special test for people who are self-employed. And the reason for this is because Social Security knows that you're doing a lot of extra work and activities that you might not be getting paid for, like an hourly or salaried employee might be. The key here is to make sure that you are keeping a record of all of your earnings so that there's no confusion about how much money you are making and what kind of business expenses that you have. You also want to make sure that you are documenting everything. So if anybody's helping you perform any of this work, or if you need any kind of special breaks or accommodations, you want to make sure that that is recorded. Instead of just looking at SGA and unsuccessful work attempt or closed period, when you're receiving disability benefits, Social Security wants to know if you are exceeding the trial work period. When you are receiving disability benefits through Social Security, you're able to work, but only if you earn up to $1,160 for 2025 to maintain your eligibility, because once your earnings reach that amount or higher, you've now triggered a trial work period. You want to pay close attention to your earnings, especially once you're approved, and how long you're able to earn more than the trial work period limit, because Social Security is looking at your earnings not just month to month or consecutively, but once your earnings exceed the trial work period amount for that year, the clock starts ticking for how long you are able to earn that amount of money and still be eligible for disability benefits. For a trial work period, any month where you earn more than the trial work period amount, so again, $1,160 for 2025, and you're able to do this for up to 9 months. But the key here is to understand that it doesn't have to be consecutive months in order to qualify or count towards a trial work period. So let's use an example. If you return to work after being approved for disability benefits in 2025, say March of 2025, and you earn $1,300 in gross monthly income, you have just triggered your first trial work period month. If this job continues for, let's say, 3 months, and then you stop working altogether for 1 year, you have only triggered 3 of your trial work period months. Maybe you're not able to return to work at all for the following year. You are still in your trial work period months that have been triggered since March of 2025. So what time frame is Social Security looking at for trial work period? Social Security is going to look at the next 5 years from when you first triggered that amount to see if you have any other months that fall within that trial work period. So for the next 5 years after that, if your earnings are always below the trial work period limit, then you will not be cut off disability benefits for exceeding the trial work period. However, if you do go back to work, and it could be at the same job or an entirely new job, if you go back to work and you exceed your trial work period for a total of 9 months or more in a rolling 5-year window from when you first exceeded the trial work period month, then your disability benefits may be stopped. The key here is to make sure you are telling Social Security, keeping your pay stubs or any documentation about your earnings, because the last thing that you want is for your disability benefits to be stopped and for you to have to pay money back to Social Security when it could have been avoided. This is called an overpayment. The Social Security disability process can be confusing and overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be that way. No matter where you are in the disability process, we can help. At Disability Law Group, disability is all we do.